community when it comes to Islamic financing options, right? That's always been our goal since we started. It's taken us time to ramp that up. Alhamdulillah, we've really been hitting our stride roughly since about 2000 or so. We've been opening up other programs with the success of our home financing business that we have. So we're able to offer more than just home financing, because the needs of the community, as you know, it's not just home financing. People need to finance cars, businesses, schools, masajid. They want to grow their wealth, all these things. So that's really been our goal all along, is to offer that, inshallah, to the community. So when it comes to Islamic financing, some of the common questions we get from the community, and rightfully so, is, how is this any different than conventional lending? And also, what are the differences, right? What does Islamic financing mean exactly? How is that differentiated than conventional financing? So I like to keep it simple, break it down into two very simple parts, right? How is Islamic financing different than conventional financing? Is really two main things: the process and the paperwork. Those two things, if they're different, they're done Islamically, then the contract is going to be sound, right? So when it comes to the process, right? I think I started with the process, right? So I usually am able to see the screen. Right now it's behind me, right? But the process is different, right? Because a conventional loan, right, is a loan with interest, right? This is what conventional financing at regular banks is what they do, right? So if you buy a house with them, they'll give you a document that's called a promissory note, right? That's what you sign at your closing to buy the house, right? Promissory note basically means you're promising to pay back a certain amount of a loan of a certain amount of money with interest on top of it, right? So obviously, Islamically, this is not okay. We can't deal with a contract like that. But what we are allowed to do Islamically is we are allowed to buy and sell, right? So you can do what's called murabaha, let's say a buy and sell, musharaka, a partnership. You can do ijara, which is like a lease to own. So there's other types of ways of having a structure that's very different than just a loan with interest, right? So those are kind of the process in that regard is very different. It's not going to be a loan with money. It's going to be a partnership, for example. Two people or maybe three people coming together, buying something, an asset, whether it's a house or a car, right? And then one of them is buying out the other partner, right, over time. Or if it's a murabaha, for example, which is like a buy and sell, one party buys the asset and then resells it to somebody else with an added profit, right? So this is another type of Islamic financing contract that is permitted as well. So the process is different, and that how you go about structuring the contract is very different. Also, is the paperwork has to be different. The second part is the paperwork has to be different. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a promissory note that you would sign with a conventional bank. That, like I said, it stipulates how much is the loan, how much interest is going to be paid. They don't even care really a lot of times to put the address of the property that's being involved, right? Because to them, that's irrelevant. Really, it's about how much is the loan, how much is the interest that they're going to charge, and the profit that they're going to get from that, right? Whereas an Islamic financing agreement, the asset is at the core of the agreement, right? What is it that you're buying? Are you buying a house? You're buying a car? Who are the parties involved? What is their relationship? What are the responsibilities, right? This is all stipulated and laid out in an Islamic financing agreement, right? What are their, contractual obligations to each other? So these things are listed out in Islamic financing agreements, so the contract is structured differently, right? And if you were to go to an attorney with our contract, for example, and have it reviewed, they would tell you this is a very different contract, right? We have attorneys who review it to make sure that we're in compliance with state laws that we operate in, as well as federal laws, and they look at it and they know this is a very different contract. Give you a real world example of that. We often deal with certain title companies and their attorneys when our customers are buying a house with us, and we send our paperwork at the time of the closing when they're about to finish the contract, or when they're finishing the application process and they're getting approved and they're going to sign the final documents to buy the house. We send our documents to this attorney's office, title company office, and they review it, and then sometimes they'll call us or email us right away and they'll say, we got your closing documents, but you guys are missing the note. There's no note in this document set, right? By note, they mean promissory note, like the usual mortgage agreement that they usually see from conventional banks. And so we tell them that there is no note in this contract or this document set. The partnership agreement that we have in there, that takes the place of the note, right? Because we have a partnership agreement that we use at UIF, which is a musharaka agreement, and that takes the place of a conventional contract that they would sign. Right? And so they're like, oh, okay, we didn't know that, right? So we usually tell the title companies and realtors ahead of time that we're using an alternative form of financing, usually what we call faith-based financing, and so they understand it. Some of them, they don't realize that there's actual differences and the contract is different, but then we kind of educate them on that process, right? So that's a real world example of where the actual contract that is being used is different. So like I mentioned, there's different types of Islamic financing agreements. There's murabaha, musharaka, which is like a diminishing partnership. Ijara is a lease to own. There's also mudaraba, which is a kind of venture capital financing. It's a lot of times used in Middle East, Malaysia, Indonesia to raise capital for different businesses. So these are all permitted types of Islamic financing agreements. So how does the home financing process work? So just a few steps. Really, it's pretty simple. In terms of the musharaka program that we use at UIF. The first step, right, is we have to have an agreement between the two parties, right? This is done when you apply with us at the pre-qualification stage, right? If you're looking to buy a house, you'll reach out, to example, to Sister Wissam. She'll be able to help you, inshallah, with getting pre-qualified. And at that stage, when you get pre-qualified, we send a couple of documents to you. One is the pre-qualification letter that you can give to your realtor. That will say how much you're approved for, right? The purchase price and the down payment and all those things, right? So it'll tell you that you're pre-qualified. But we have an additional document that we provide, and this is something that our Sharia board requires, is that there's kind of what's called like an agreement, an agency agreement or wakala, and this stipulates, that we are going into partnership together, right? So, for example, Mufti Taqi Usmani, very famous scholar from Pakistan, and he's one of the lead scholars of AOFI, which is an organization I'll talk about in a little bit. But he stipulates in his book on Islamic finance, right? If you have musharaka, if you have a partnership, it should be, established either in a couple of ways. It could be done verbally, right? Like me and you, we could say that we're partners together, right? Verbally we say it and there's witnesses. Or you can write it down, right? You put it into an agreement that we're going into a partnership together, right? So we're opening an ice cream shop, and I don't know why I always say ice cream shop in all my examples, maybe because I'm hungry, but but if we were opening an ice cream store together, we would say we're 50-50 partners, and we would stipulate that we're partners in the contract, right? So we do it, make it simple so that any auditing that we have done by our Sharia board, we can say that we've established a partnership with the customer, right? So when we send the pre-qualification letter, we establish in the first step that we have a partnership there. The second stage is when we do the actual financing. Each of us are going to bring, in the second step, a certain amount of money to the table. So for example, you might bring 10%, we bring the other 90%, and we buy the house together as joint partners from the seller, right? So we own the home now in a 90-10 partnership between the two of us, and that's our capital contribution in that agreement. So obviously, as the homeowner, if you bring 10%, you don't want to own just 10%, right? You eventually want to own 100% of the home. So how do you do that, right? The way that it works in our agreement is you'll make a monthly payment to us that has two parts to it. One part is to pay us a rent, right? To utilize our share of the home, right? So this is the profit that we're deriving in the agreement. The second part of your payment is a buyout. You're going to buy us out over time. So you start with 10%, for example, and then eventually you go to 20%, 30%, 50%, and so on and so forth, until you own 100% of the property, okay? So you'll buy us out eventually over time. You can think of it as like renting, like a rent-to-own model. And then step 4, finally, as you reach 100% ownership of the property, our partnership is terminated, right? And our contract is no longer, needed anymore. It's been fulfilled, right? So you eventually buy us out, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30-year contract, whatever the case may be. You make monthly payments to us, buy out our share, right? Very similar to like if you owned a stock in a company. If you owned 25% of Apple, right? You'd be a very rich person, but also, if you wanted to keep buying shares of Apple, for example, until eventually you bought out all the shares of Apple, you're 100% owner of Apple, for example, or any other stock. So you can think of the house as the same way, is that you're building ownership in the home, and you're buying UIF out of its share of the home, until eventually you become 100% owner of the property. So how is this different? It's different because there's no loan involved, there's no interest involved. This is like a rent-to-own model, what we call diminishing partnership. So the diminishing side is obviously UIF's share of the home is going down as you make payments, and you're paying us a rent to use our share of the home, right? So if there was 10 bedrooms in the house, for example, we own 9 of them, you own 1 in the beginning, so you want to use all of the bedrooms in the house, right? The kitchen, the family room, the dining room, everything. So you pay us a rent to use that share, and then eventually you buy out all the shares from us, and you own the home completely 100%. So this is the basically the model that we use, the diminishing partnership for our home financing program. So one of the things I want to mention quickly is the Sharia compliance part, because a lot of times people think that this is kind of simple. You get like a group of scholars, you get a fatwa, and then you're all set. So we follow a very strict standard, which is with AOFI. AOFI is an international organization of Muslim scholars who are specialists in Islamic financing. AOFI stands for the Accounting and Auditing Organization of Islamic Financing Institutions. It's based out of, I believe, in Bahrain, and there's a large group of Muslim scholars who make up their board and executive, and they set the guidelines and standards for all Islamic banks and Islamic financing institutions in the world, right? So if you want to be a credible Islamic financing or Islamic bank, then you need to follow AOFI standards. So alhamdulillah, UIF has been a member of AOFI since 2007. All of our Sharia board members that we have 3 Sharia board members on our board, are all AOFI members as well. And AOFI has very strict criteria on if you're offering financing, right? So number one, right, they require that you have a Sharia board with at least 2 out of the 3 board members being experts on Islamic financing, right? So alhamdulillah, UIF, all 3 of our board members, right, not just 2 out of the 3, but all 3 are AOFI scholars, meaning they're all members of AOFI, and they are accredited and follow their guidelines. They're well-known experts in Islamic financing. The second step is they require that there's a fatwa issued by AOFI that for all the products and services that Islamic financing company offers, right? So if you're for home financing, auto financing, whatever it is you offer, you need to have a fatwa for each of the programs, right? So usually for most people, they think, okay, you got the fatwa, you have the Sharia board, okay, alhamdulillah, they're good, all set. AOFI says no, there's actually more requirements. I like to say that this is like the halal restaurant requirement, right? So if you had a halal restaurant, right, mashallah, we have a lot of nice new halal restaurants here in Dallas. Let's just say, 10 years ago, there was a family that owned a restaurant, and they had a fatwa that their meat was all halal, right? 10 years later, the family that everybody knew, very pious Muslim family, they decided to sell the restaurant to somebody else. Nobody knows this guy, right, who bought the restaurant. Is he still following the fatwa that the family had before? How would we know, right? Would we go into the kitchen and check in the back? Is he getting the halal meat from the right place and all that? It's too much of a hassle, right? That's not our responsibility, right? It's the responsibility of the business, right? To make sure that they're offering a halal source of meat for their customers, right? So AOFI requires for Islamic financing companies that you also need to make sure that you're in compliance on a regular basis, right? So you have to have regular auditing done of your contracts, right? So UIF, as a member of AOFI, and we follow their guidelines strictly, we have an auditing consultant who reviews our contracts on a regular basis to make sure that we're staying in compliance, that we're not going outside of the requirements of our fatwa, right? Because that can be easy to do, and I'll tell you why. Because state laws and federal laws change, and they can alter the contract, right? So I'll give you a real-world example of this. This is a long time ago, about more than 10 years ago. We had an issue in the state of Maryland. We were offering commercial financing, and some of the state laws in Maryland had changed. And so we took this, the requirements that the state of Maryland was telling us, their attorneys were telling us, and we took it to our Sharia board, and we said that they're saying we have to make these changes to our contract. Otherwise, it won't be valid in the state of Maryland. So our Sharia board looked it over. They said if you make these changes, your contract's not going to be valid anymore in Maryland, right? Or it won't be Sharia compliant anymore. So we had to stop doing business temporarily in Maryland until we could work out a solution between the state of Maryland and our Sharia board, right? So these are kind of the stories that go on in the background. We don't really, broadcast that, right? But we like to explain that to the community so they know that this is something that is a real issue, right? If your Islamic financing company is really doing things authentically the way it's supposed to be done, then they may run into these issues. And so you don't want to just be offering, a Sharia compliant contract, but then it's kind of skirting the rules of the Sharia, right? So we don't want to have those type of problems. And so we make sure that everything that we're offering, right, is 100% sound, right? So we make sure that we have an auditing, consultant who comes and audits our contract. And then last but not least, AOFI also requires that the Sharia board that you have also annually gives an audit of your contract, right? To make sure that you're in compliance, whether you're offering home financing, auto financing, savings accounts, whatever it is, that all of these products are Sharia compliant. So if you go to our website, for example, at myuif.com, we have a fatwa section that has a fatwa for all of our programs, right? You'll see the signatures of all our Sharia board members on there, on the fatwa for each program individually. And in addition to that, we post the audits that we receive from them publicly as well. So they review our programs, and then we put the audit that they give us, right, the approving our programs on the website, so that our community has transparency. They know that we're operating according to the fatwa that was issued. So if you want to work with us, inshallah, you can reach out to Sister Wissam. I'll have her contact information at the end. She's going to ask you 3 main things that she's going to discuss with you, right? Is your credit, your income, and how much down payment you have, how much money you have saved for down payment and closing costs. And based on that information, inshallah, she'll be able to tell you how much you're pre-qualified for, right? You can pre-qualify for a $200,000 house, $500,000 house, whatever the case may be, based on your individual situation, right? And, you know, alhamdulillah, we've invested a lot of money in technology to make it as smooth and easy as possible. So one of the things that we do now is a lot of times we don't even need to do a hard credit check on you, right? We do a soft credit pull. And in addition to that, we have a financing system now where you can log in your details from your bank, and all of it is secure, and you'll share your basically your checking account, saving account information with us, and it'll pull all the data that it needs from there, so that we don't need to get your W-2, we don't need your pay stubs, we don't need your bank statements, because those of you who bought a house before, it was a lot of paperwork, right? So we're invested in technology to make it even easier. So it's basically almost all you need is maybe a copy of your driver's license and maybe some letters of explanation, right? And you might be able to do the rest of it, no tax returns, no W-2s, because all this data that we have now, right, alhamdulillah, a lot of it is easy to pull for these different systems. So we've partnered with one of the larger companies that's out there that's owned by MasterCard, and they basically just import your bank information all securely into our system, and our system can read all the data from there. All of it is secure. It's all, none of that's being shared. Like we said, it's one of the top companies that's out there. And all that information can be read and makes it very streamlined, very easy, and you can close even faster on the house now, inshallah. So instead of waiting 30, 40, 50 days to buy the house, usually you can get done in maybe 3 or 4 weeks or less than that, right, depending on the situation. So we've invested heavily in that to make the process even easier for our customers, inshallah. So I'm going to move into our next section, inshallah, before I wrap up. We can do a little bit of Q&A, inshallah, before Isha prayer. But one of the big questions we get from the community is, where do you guys get your money from? Do you just borrow it from banks and then you just give it to us, right? So alhamdulillah, one of the things is, I can tell you 100% without any issues, we don't borrow money from any banks, right? We have our own source of funds from Muslim investors. But we also need the community support if we want to go to the next level, right? And what do I mean by that? By next level, I'll get into that, inshallah, in a little bit. But one of the big things that we're offering now, and we're really proud to do this, inshallah, is to offer halal savings accounts to the community, right? So many of us, for many years, those of us who lived here in the US, we may have a checking account at a conventional bank, 0%. Our money sits in that account. It loses its value to inflation, right? And those of us who've been paying attention to the news and the economy, especially, inflation's been running high for a few years now. And so we lose the value of our money, right? Each dollar loses its value because of inflation. The costs of goods are going up, and we're not keeping up with it, right? And as Muslims, sometimes we're penalized because we're not able to deal with interest, right? So what is UIF doing as an answer to that? Well, one, we need capital from the community, because we don't have like a Muslim Elon Musk out there who's giving us billions of dollars, to do Islamic financing. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So our community has to support itself, right? So how do we do that? By depositing money with UIF, right? So what are the benefits of that for you? The benefit is you're going to get a halal return on your money, right? You deposit $500 with us, $1,000, whatever the case may be, right? We're going, in return for that, we're going to invest your money in our Sharia compliant products and services, right? So your money goes to help other Muslims with their home financing, commercial financing, auto financing, right? And the profits that we derive from that, right, we are going to share with you, right? And that way, you're able to get a benefit from investing with UIF, inshallah. So we can offer this program, right? It's the safety of the account, like I mentioned, is there. It's FDIC insured. So by benefit of being in America, any deposit accounts that we open are automatically, guaranteed by the U.S. government. That's not a Sharia compliant thing. That's just an American thing, right? So you get the benefit of the American banking system, that it protects your money up to $250,000. Like I mentioned, all of the money is invested only in UIF's halal financing program. So that's where your money is going. People ask, well, okay, what happens with my money? I give you guys $1,000, $5,000. What happens with it? We invest that, like I said, into our programs and services that we offer to the Muslim community. So your money is being used to help other Muslims with their financing, right? And in return for that, you're getting profit sharing. So the minimum investment on the savings account to get profit sharing is $500, right? So if you want to open an account with us, very easy, inshallah. You can reach out to Sister Wissam. You can do it online. It takes like, just a few hours to get the account open, or even less than that if you call on Monday, inshallah, it'll be even faster. And the account, minimum $500 to get profit sharing. If you want to put less than that, you can put less than that, but you just won't get the profit sharing on the account, right? But you can open the account without it. We also have what's called the time deposit program. This program is kind of similar to a bank CD or certificate of deposit, and that these are, you're going to get a higher return for having money locked in with us for a longer period of time. Usually the money will be locked in with us for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. The reason we need a time period is so that we can project out how much money we're going to have for future programs and services that we're going to offer down the road. And so we need a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year commitment from you. And that way, you're able to get a higher return on your money and inshallah get a profit on your investment with us, right? So inshallah, I'm going to take questions in a few minutes. So basically our halal savings accounts and time deposit programs, right? These are alternatives to conventional banks and what they're offering, right? And these are anticipated returns. These are not guaranteed returns. Anticipated, because it's Sharia compliant, we cannot guarantee a return, but we have a 20-year track record, right, of the profits that we've made as a company. So we're, pretty accurately able to gauge how much we can give back to our community members who are investing with us, right? Our savings accounts roughly 3.5% to 4%. The higher deposit you have, it's like 20,000, 50,000, you'll get a higher return on it. Same with the time deposit account, roughly about 4 to 4.5% is the return on it. So these are good for like a rainy day fund, right? If you have money sitting in a checking account, it's not doing anything, invest it with us, so that inshallah we can help the rest of the community with their home financing, auto financing, and other needs that they have, right? We know the conventional banks that are out there, their interest is not in the Muslim community, right? Let's just be real about that. I don't want to get into a political discussion about it, but we know a lot of the banks also are supporting certain countries that are hurting the Muslim community, both here and abroad, right? So why are we investing our money with these companies that in reality don't care about us, don't have our interest in mind, right? UIF is a company that has Muslim ownership in it. A large part of our company is owned by the Muslim community. We have, close to 100 Muslim employees in our company, and we give back to the Muslim community. Just like events like this, we give back at sponsorships, different dinners, Muslim community organizations we support throughout the country. So we need to work together, inshallah, to benefit ourselves, because no one else is coming to help us, right? There's no one else who's coming. Many times we get brothers like, you should ask Sheikh so-and-so or Prince so-and-so in some country. Well, give me their phone number, inshallah, I'll reach out to them, right? But we can't hope and wish for our community to build its strength, right? We need to do it ourselves, and so inshallah, that's my appeal today. Last but not least, before I wrap up, inshallah, alhamdulillah, we've been awarded many honors for our customer service and dedication to the community. We've been awarded the Islamic Finance News Award, Global Financier Award for the last 9 years, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, we're hoping to make it 10 years in a row. Inshallah, so we're very honored by that. But even more important to us is what our customers say about us. These are our actual Google reviews as of a few months ago. Our Plano office, which is right over, just down the street over there by Epic Masjid, our office is over there. Alhamdulillah, Sister Wissam and many of other colleagues, they constantly get 5-star reviews from their customers, right? So you can see our Plano office, 4.9 out of 5 stars. We're very proud of that. We're not perfect, but we're always trying to be perfect, inshallah, trying to serve our community as best we can with the best service, best pricing, and best Sharia compliance of anyone who's out there. So what are the benefits that you get with UIF? We are the leader in Islamic financing in the US with the different programs we offer, whether it's Islamic home financing, commercial real estate financing, savings accounts, auto financing, many different programs that we offer. We like to give back to the community in addition to the different sponsorships that we do in the community. We also have a scholarship that we award for the children of imams in the community. So alhamdulillah, we've been able to give a couple dozen of those every year now for the last several years that we've partnered with a few other Muslim organizations. We're giving scholarships to their children because, as you know, many imams in the community, they don't get paid a whole lot. And if they have children, it's hard for them to get their children through school. And so we did this scholarship so that the children of these imams, inshallah, are able to get some type of financial aid. to assist them with their college, the college tuition. Our goal at UIF is very simple: offer five-star customer service, low pricing, right, competitive pricing, and then strict Sharia compliance. And then last but not least, really, we don't believe in any LLC fees, junk fees that are out there. There's other Islamic financing companies. They say that they have Islamic financing, but there's a lot of extra fees that they tack on. We don't believe in any of that. We don't think this is the right way to do things. We don't feel that Islamic financing should be more expensive and that there should be additional cost to it. And then to finish up, I have Sister Wissam's information there, her phone and email. She's our senior area manager here in Texas. She's been in the Islamic financing industry for a long time, well over a decade, both in the Middle East here and in the US. And if you read her Google reviews, her customer, literally we just got one yesterday, husband and wife, just glowing review about the service that she gave them. They were so happy about how she took so much extra time to help them and guide them through the home buying process. Because buying a house, very complicated. If you're doing it for the first time, you're moving, you're stressed, you're packing up boxes. So you want to make sure the home buying process goes easy, inshallah. And also, to have it be Sharia compliant on top of it is the cherry on top, right? So Jazakallah khair, everyone, for your time. I appreciate it. And to the board at Masjid Salahadeen, Jazakallah khair, we appreciate the opportunity. I know there's only a few minutes before Isha prayer. Inshallah, I'll be here a little bit longer after Isha to answer some questions, but if we can take maybe one or two questions, inshallah, then we can wrap up before Isha prayer. Yes, brother.